manage contracts with the city DOT, with MTA, and NJ Transit, which is less relevant to you guys. So I have an interest, obviously, in transportation policy and land use. I live in Crown Heights on Park Place between Nostrand and New York. I've lived in New York since 1985, but I've been in and out of Crown Heights for the last 10 years, depending on how many babies I had and how much space we had. So that's it.
Well, welcome back to the neighborhood.
Thank you.
And I agree with District Manager George. I just want to note that the committees are listed on the board website, but we're going to move on to Robin Callahan and just give everybody that's coming on board a chance to introduce themselves to the group. Mr. Callahan.
Hey, everybody. I live in, I guess, sort of East Crown Heights on Prospect near Utica. Lived here for about 4 years. I keep the chickens at Amani Community Garden at Dean and Schenectady. That's sort of I've had some acquaintance with the board in the past before joining because we've had some land use issues. So if I know we're not supposed to have a committee assignments ready yet, but land use is something that I'm very interested in Crown Heights. That and public safety are issues that I'm pretty interested to get involved in. Professionally, I work for the New York City Independent Budget Office, which is a city agency nobody knows about, and just here to do what I can. So that's me.
Well, that is wonderful. IBL was one of my favorite agencies. Okay, thank you very much.
I'm a fan of you too.
Next up is Kevin Farley. Mr. Farley, are you with us? I guess not. So then we'll go next to Igenie Harris Blenman. They probably join us later. Moving on.
Farley's here. I don't know why Farley's here. I don't know where Farley is. I can't make him a panelist. Sorry, having issues with sound. Farley's here, but he's having issues with sound. Okay.
Okay, so
Mr. Farley, can you hear us? Okay, well,
if I suggest, Mr. Farley, you can put any comments you'd like into the chat function, and we're monitoring that as well, so we can share that from there.
So I guess we better move on. We have 4 more to go. Igenie Harris Blenman. Ms. George, can you tell if Igenie Harris Blenman is with us?
He hasn't logged on.
Okay, moving on to Mario Lemaine. Present? No. Calvis Mickelsteins. No.
No.
Okay. Carmisha Superville.
No, she's not. She hasn't logged on.
Okay, Kimberly Watson.
She's not here.
Okay, so we can welcome them at our September meeting then. We're just glad to have more people, more worker bees, so to speak. Welcome all new members. Thank you, thank you, thank you. At our last executive committee meeting, Mr. Witherwax, who's the head of, Robert Witherwax, who is the head of the Environment, Sanitation, Transportation Committee, also volunteered to work as the board's acting secretary till the next election in 2021. And so I thank you very much, Mr. Witherwax. Mr. Witherwax is also the chair for the Prospect Heights Neighborhood Development Council. And he's a Gold Star worker bee, and we're so glad to have him in this community. So moving on, District Manager, what's next on our agenda here?
We need to do a roll call.
Okay. I would ask Mr. Witherwax to proceed with that. I did see his face earlier, or Mr.
I am here. I am here, ready to proceed, and I thank you for your kind words. And I will do the roll call. Kirmoni Allison. When you hear your name, unmute and just say here.
Here.
Linda Andrews. Desmond Atkins. Lisa Atkinson.
Here.
Wayne Bailey is present in the chat, having connectivity issues as well. Ben James.
I saw Miss James here, so.
I see Miss James, yeah. Julia Boyd. Gail Branch Mohammed.
Ms. Boyd is present. Ms. Boyd is here. I saw her in the chat.
Ms. Boyd is here. Miss Branch Mohammed.
She's also here having difficulty.
Excellent. Mr. Buckholz here. Mr. Callahan.
Also here.
Ms. Charles.
Here.
Ms. Coley. Ms. Daniel.
Ms. Daniels here.
So, thank you, Ms. Daniel. Mr. Ellis. Mr. Farley, we said was in the chat. Ms. Ferris.
Ms. Ferris is here.
Mr. Frazier. Regrets, Mr. Gabriel.
Here.
Ms. Gibbs.
Present.
Ms. Granville.
Here.
Ms. Harris Blenman. Ms. Henry.
Henry's present.
Thank you. Ms. Jordan. Ms. Kinsey. Ms. Coe. Ms. Laser. Ms. Lemaine. Ms. Mahoney. Ms. or Mr. Mickelstein. Dr. Perko. Mr. Puka. Mr. Raji.
Yeah.
Mr. Sachs.
Here.
Mr. Saunders.
Present.
Ms. Soko. Captain Staten. Ms. Superville. Ms. Tate Hall. Mr. Thurton.
Here.
Mr. Todd.
Todd is here.
Thank you. Ms. Tyus.
Present.
Mr. Baconi.
Here.
Ms. Watson. Ms. Weatherspoon.
Here.
Wedderburn.
Here.
Mr. Witherwax present. Ms. Young. Ms. Zuniga. We have 27 present out of 49. That's a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Witherwax. Ms. George, next item.
Oh, I don't have the agenda up. Wait. Where's your agenda, Ms. Tyus?
Question. Hello.
Okay. On the agenda you provided earlier.
Hello.
Mr. Mehta has a question.
Can we ask that all questions go into the Q&A section so we can, or the,
There's something with the roll call. Am I considered off the board right now? Or come September? I didn't hear my name read. I didn't hear my name being read.
Right, they removed you as of June.
Oh, okay. So okay, I realize that. Okay, so as of May then, for the month of June. Okay. Well, I might as well not. Can I listen in? Can I listen on the meeting?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's open to the public. Absolutely, absolutely.
This is a community
Okay.
meeting. It's open to the public, and you've got good standing to attend and contribute to the discussion. So, action items we have for tonight are 2 items for the executive committee, a resolution for continuing business, a process for membership recognition, Slack, and land use. So, Ms. George, shall we start with the resolution?
Absolutely.
Okay, this resolution is to confirm the authority of the State Liquor Authority and Sidewalk Cafe Review Committee, SLAC, and the Land Use Committee to act for the full board. And It's been circulated to the board members, and I'm reading it as we go now. In recognition of the suspension of the in-person meeting requirement of Article 7 of the Public Officers Law, included in the Governor's Executive Order 202.1, issued March 12, 2020. The committee discussed confirming authority of the slacking land use committees to act for the full board until regular meetings begin again. On motion made by Mr. Witherwax and seconded by Mr. Ellis, the committee approved the concept. And the language now presented for affirmation at this full board meeting is as follows. Whereas the current state of emergency and the restrictions on in-person meetings implemented by EO 202.1 to prevent the spread of the deadly COVID-19 virus have made regular full board meetings impossible. And whereas two committees with regular adjudicatory responsibilities, the SLA and sidewalk review, the sidewalk cafe review, and land use committees continue to hold virtual meetings to give the board the opportunity to respond to applications that have been submitted, having met in March, April, and May with June meetings scheduled. And whereas all committees with adjudicatory responsibilities either currently or arising require the affirmation of the full board for the authority exercised thus far during 2020, as well as authorization to continue to act for the full board under exigent circumstances when the full board is either unable to meet during government restrictions, due to government restrictions, or to achieve a quorum due to technological impediments, or when the full board is not scheduled for a meeting. Be it therefore resolved that the full membership body of Community Board 8 grants executive authority to any committee with adjudicatory responsibilities during a state of emergency, notwithstanding any associated technological impediments that prevent a quorum, and whenever the full board is not scheduled to meet. Are there questions on this resolution? Again, I ask, are there any questions on this proposed resolution? Anything in the chat?
Nothing as of yet, Ms. Tyus. I'm trying to follow if there's any hand raised.
Does this have a time limit?
We need to do it today.
I'm sorry.
I
Can
meant.
someone acknowledge who's speaking? I'm sorry.
Sorry, this is Robert Callahan. I just wanted to know if this resolution has an expiration date or if it is continuing until it is repealed.
It's circumstantial, as described in the reso itself. Whenever there's a state of emergency, then we would revert to the powers that we're asking to be affirmed through this action.
I also see Mr. Mickelstein has his hand raised.
Mickelstein?
Yes, that was actually from earlier when I was trying to get your attention, James. I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so Mr. Callahan, do you have any other concerns on the time limitation?
No, that's it.
Okay, what we are planning to do is to include this authority in the bylaws. We formed a bylaws committee. We have to set a schedule for them to meet, and we will fold this language into the bylaws so that it doesn't become a sticking point going forward. The federal agency is saying that this is not over and it won't be over until we have a vaccine or some sort of therapeutic cure. So with the recent demonstrations and openings in other states, they're seeing a rise in the incidences of infection. So we may not be back to business as usual, or it may be a wave form kind of thing going every few months or so. So we need to have a way to continue to do business. Thank God our elected representatives are rising to the challenge. The mayor just issued a statement offering $3 million to 100 restaurants throughout the city to help them stay open. So on the local level, we have that help coming in. As you know, Governor Cuomo has set certain restrictions on people being evicted. and people not being held to task for late mortgage payments and so on. So
Sorry to interrupt, Ms. Tyus, I apologize, but we're having some feedback, and I think it's coming maybe from Ms. Ferris, that she also had her hand raised.
No question.
Hi, Ms. Ferris.
I'm trying to see questions.
I'll
mute her.
Okay, thank you. I guess that was maybe an unintentional, sorry. So please continue, Ms. Tyus. Sorry for the interruption.
That's okay. So if there are no more questions on this proposed resolution, I would ask for a motion on it.
Make a motion to accept the resolution. This is James Ellis.
Second, Brian Saunders.
Thank you, Mr. Ellis and Mr. Saunders. Mr. Witherwax, would you please on the acceptance of the resolution?
Once again, so when I call your name, please unmute and say yes or no. If you can't do that, please register your vote yes or no in the chat. I can see your name and I will count your vote. Mr. Allison.
Yay to the resolution.
Ms. Andrews. Mr. Atkins. Ms. Atkins.
Yes to the resolution.
Bailey was a yes. Ms. Ben James.
Is it in the chat?
Not as of yet.
No, and I can't look at them both at the same time. Sorry.
I'm happy to monitor that, Mr. Witherwax.
What's that, Mr. Ellis?
I said I'll happily monitor that.
Thank you. Ms. Boyd. Ms. Branch Mohammed. Mr. Buckholtz.
Yes.
Mr. Callahan.
Yes.
Ms. Charles.
Yes.
Ms. Coley. Ms. Daniel. Mr. Ellis.
Yes.
Mr. Farley. Ms. Ferris. Mr. Frazier. Mr. Gabriel.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs.
Yes.
Ms. Granville.
Yes.
Ms. Harris Blenman is in the chat saying she can't hear anything. Marva Henry.
Yes.
Ms. Jordan. Ms. Kinsey. Ms. Coe. Ms. Lazarus. Ms. Lemaine. Ms. Mahoney. Mr. Mickelstein.
Yes.
Mr. Puka. Mr. Raji.
I have an affirmative yes from Mr. Farley.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Raji. Thank you, Mr. Ellis. And thank you, Mr. Farley. Mr. Sachs.
Yes.
Mr. Saunders. There we go. Ms. Superbill. Mr. Paul. Mr. Thurman.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Todd. Ms. Tyus.
Yes.
Mr. Vicconi.
Yes.
Ms. Watson. Ms. Weatherspoon.
Yes.
Ms. Wedderburn.
Yes.
Mr. Witherwack. Ms. Zuniga. Let me just backfill a bit here.
Gail Branch Mohammed said yes in the chat as well.
Can you hear me? Princess Ben James said yes.
Thank you, Ms. Ben James. Just to go over who I know is here, Ms. Boyd. Ms. Daniel, I didn't get your vote. Thank you. Ms. Ferris, I didn't get your vote.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Brennan, and sorry, technology is what it is.
Mr. Witherwax, did you get my vote?
Who is this?
Is that Mr. Atkins? Welcome. I didn't hear you, sir. No. What is your vote?
Mr. Atkins? Where is he?
Popped in and popped out again. Mr. Saunders, what was your vote?
Mr. Atkins, can you repeat?
Let's just say the motion passes.
I'm missing Raji and Saunders as well.
Raji was a yes. Saunders hasn't.
Yes.
Saunders is a yes.
Thank you.
I have the motion passing 27 in favor, no opposed, no abstention.
Excellent. Thank you all very, very much. This will make everybody's life a lot easier. And we will get through this together. Thank you again. And we're moving on to the next item of business from the Executive Committee on membership. Ms. George, as District Manager, would you please speak to this issue?
On membership?
Yes, Ms. Coe.
Wait, let me pull that up.
Okay, the issue with Coe is that she hasn't been coming to meetings.
She was appointed in September 2019. She's never attended any meetings. As per the bylaws, we sent her a letter regarding her attendance. As per the bylaws, she never responded. We awaited the response. So the next action, according to the bylaws, was before the full board for a vote. So that's where we are today.
So are there any questions on this motion to remove charges, the charges? There was a set of charges.
No question, but a comment to board members. You've already won up Ms. Eunice Coe, so good on you guys. Thank you.
Okay, the Executive Committee accordingly is through this meeting this evening is recommending that she be removed based on non-attendance. Is there any member present who would want to defend this absent member, Ms. Coe, Eunice Coe?
I do have a question.
Yes.
About reaching out to Ms. Coe. Has it been?
Who's talking? Who's talking?
Hi, Kirmani speaking.
Okay.
Has it been to different possible email addresses and phone numbers to Ms. Coe?
We sent her a written letter and we followed up with the email that we have on record from her. Yes.
And I also did call her multiple times since her appointment in September.
Dr. Julia Neal, Community Coordinator at Community Board 8.
Thank you.
Just one other comment. This is Mr. Witherwax. We don't take this lightly. We don't like kicking volunteers off of a volunteer organization, but we need to manage our quorum numbers. And if we have people who just aren't going to show, it makes it a harder burden to bear for the rest of us. So we need to keep our quorum where it's properly calibrated. We need to have 50% of the members in the room at any given time to do business. So if we have 4 or 5 who, that means we have to have 25 or 24 instead of 23 or 22 to do business. So it just makes it harder. So thank you.
Well, I'm glad you're speaking up and asking questions, Mr. Allison, but even with a misprint or a typo in her email address, she did make out an application to join the board. She contacted either the borough president's office or her council member, and she put in the application. So she could have been coming to meetings from last September to this past February when we were meeting in person without the need for us to call her, remind her, email her to come to the meetings, because all of that information is on the community board's website. And as Mr. Witherwax said, we have to have a majority of the members present to do business officially as a quorum. So if we have 50 members, then we need to have 26 people in the room to do business, okay? So that's where we are. And I would ask that the board support the recommendation of the Executive Committee as laid out by the facts on the record to remove Ms. Coe. Is there a second on the motion? I asked for a motion to support this recommendation.
So moved. This is Gib Bocconi.
Thank you, Mr. Coney.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second by Princess Ben James.
Okay.
May I also just flag that Ms. James raised her hand on the function. Are you still, did you have a question or something, Ms. James? Okay.
Oh, Mr.
Who seconded the motion?
Princess
Ben James.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
So we have a motion on the floor, and unless there are any other questions, are there any other questions? I'm going to ask for a roll call on this to remove Ms. Coe. Hearing none, I ask for a roll call on Ms. Coe's removal.
All right. Same as before, please unmute. When you know your time is coming, say your yes or no to the question, and if you can't speak, go to the chat. Mr. Allison.
Yes to the removal.
Thank you. Ms. Andrews. Mr. Atkins.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Atkinson.
Yes.
Mr. Bailey was a yes in the chat. Ms. Ben James.
Yes.
Ms. Boyd. Ms. Branch Mohammed.
Ms. Branch Mohammed is in the chat. She said yes.
Thank you. Mr. Buckholz.
Yes.
Mr. Callahan.
Yes.
Ms. Charles.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Daniel.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Ellis.
Yes.
Mr. Farley was a yes in the chat. Ms. Ferris. Thank you. Mr. Frazier. Mr. Gabriel.
Ms. Ferris also said yes in the chat.
Yes.
And I heard her aloud. Mr. Gabriel.
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs. We lose Ms. Gibbs. Ms. Granville.
Yes.
Ms. Harris Plenman. Ms. Henry.
Yes.
Ms. Jordan. Ms. Kinsey. Ms. Coe. Last chance. Ms.
I said yes.
Who is that?
Ms. Gibbs.
Ms.
I couldn't get to the screen.
Ms. Laser. Thank you. Ms. Lemaine. Ms. Mahoney. Mr. Mickelsteins.
Yes.
Mr. Puka. Mr. Raji.
Yes.
Mr. Sachs.
Yes.
Mr. Saunders.
Yes.
Ms. Soko. Mr. Staton. Ms. Superville. Ms. Tate Hall. Mr. Thurton.
Yes.
Mr. Todd.
Yes.
Ms. Tyus.
Yes.
Ms. Coney.
Yes.
Ms. Watson. Ms. Weatherspoon.
Yes.
Ms. Wedderburn.
Yes.
Mr. Witherwax, yes. Ms. Young. Ms. Zuniga. The motion passes 29 in favor, 0 opposed, 0 abstentions.
Thank you, Mr. Weatherwax. Thank you all for a very unpleasant task, but it has to be taken care of. Now we have a report from the SLAC committee, which met on March 2nd, and also on April 6th and May 15th. Mr. Ellis or Mr. Witherwax, I'm not sure who gives this report.
Should I just be reading from the reports?
If you wish, however you wish to do it, sir.
Sure, one second. All right. So the SLAC committee met on March 2nd, 2020 at the downtown Brooklyn Rehab Center prior to the pause caused by COVID-19 pandemic. The committee also met remotely via the freeconferencecall.com on April 6, 2020, and via Webex on May 15, 2020. The committee approved the following applications: renewals at Bergen Projects at 899 Bergen Street for a full license. Dalmo Taco, 733 Franklin Avenue for a full license. Nourish Thai at 637A Vanderbilt Avenue for a beer, wine, and cider license. Good Luck at 689 Washington Avenue for a full license. Happiness Lounge, 1458 St. John's Place, full license. Underhill Cafe and Grill, 760 Dean Street, beer, wine, and cider. Eat Morris, 145 Brooklyn Avenue at beer, wine, and cider. Dutch Boy Burger, 618 St. John's Place for a full license. Sloan's Barbecue and Elbow Room at 267 Flatbush Avenue for a full license. Sweet Brooklyn Bar at 608 Nostrand Avenue for a full license. Silver Rice at 636 Park Place for a beer, wine, and cider license. The committee voted also to support all renewals. Are we breaking separately, Ms. George, or do this as one?
This is Julie Neal. It was my understanding from our conversations with Ms. George and Ms. Tias earlier today that we were going to vote on one item just to approve all of the votes from both land use and Slack.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I'll continue to read out my report, and then we can add land uses report and ask for a motion to ratify those efforts. Is that how I'm understanding that, Ms. Neal?
That's what the conversations came to. That was the conclusion of the conversations, yes.
Great, thank you for that clarity. All right, so continuing on with our report of applications approved, new applications for Cafe Nanive at 105 Kingston Avenue and 755 Dean Street, a full license with live music and no outdoor space. The support was renewed from when the applicant last presented at the board in December 2017, and the applicant states the details have not changed. The initial support was on the following understanding of hours of operation: Sunday, 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. daily. 42 seats, all performances to end by 11 p.m., and adequate soundproofing to be installed. Additionally, Nostrand Social at 706 Nostrand Avenue for a full license. Small scale patron dancing, live music, DJ stage shows. A catering facility, a restaurant, and no outdoor space. Support was renewed when the applicant last presented before the board in October 2018, and the applicant states the details have not changed with the exception of the removal of the rooftop garden. The initial support was the following: live music and DJs, outdoor rooftop with 52-person capacity, 3 levels for the restaurant and cabaret, 39 tables with 148 seats and 3 bars, 1 on each level with 44 seats, maximum capacity 198. Approved hours of operation: closing 2 a.m. Sunday through Wednesday, closing 3 a.m. Thursday through Saturday. This 500-foot exception community benefit was mentioned that they would be offering Broadway caliber performances brought to the community. Senior centers focusing on jazz performances will host lunches and brunches during the week, and as a family and wedding gathering location, hiring young adults and training with entrepreneur sessions, working with the Bed-Stuy Restoration Workforce Development Program from within the community, and also a capacity for handicap section with 6 seats for performances and lift to be built. No third-party promoters would be permitted, no liquor bottle service in any capacity on any floor at any time other than wine, and no outdoor music. Item number 3 was Cuatro Rios, 759 Nostrand, a beer, wine, and cider license. This was renewing the support for the beer, wine, cider application for the aforementioned establishment. Support was renewed from when the applicant last presented before the board in April 2018, and the applicant states the details have not changed. Business hours include closing that portion at 9 p.m. It was an alteration application applied for Superpower at 722 Nostrand Avenue for an extension of hours of operations to 4 a.m. daily. Additionally, there was a sidewalk cafe application for Bar Meridian at 406 Prospect Place. A cap on seating at 18 seats, 12 on Grand Avenue and 6 on Prospect Place, and hours ending at 10 p.m. Sunday through Thursday and midnight Friday and Saturday. Thank you. That's the end of the SLA activities since March's meetings.
Alice. And thank you, Ms. Neal, for putting the summaries together so that they can be covered by the affirmation of the resolution we just passed. So that's on the record. These records are available through the Community Board office and the Community Board website. The same type of activity happened for the Land Use Committee. There were the 3 meetings. We got booted out of CNR on the night of March 5th, and we marched over to St. Gregory's Church and met there. And we discussed a couple of projects. This is all listed in the materials that have been sent out to the board members. I hope you all had a chance to look at that online. We did a certificate of appropriateness for 1003 Sterling Place. We discussed the community benefits agreement for the Grand Pacific rezoning, which is part of the M-Crown project. And we discussed a handicap ramp for 1370 Dean Street. All of this was done March, April, May, and on June 4th, just last week, we discussed a major project that was laid over to July, not the first Thursday, second Thursday, because we avoid the July 4th holiday. And we hope the new members who are interested in land use will be able to come to that meeting online July 9th regarding a new project. So those are the past projects that the affirmation of the resolution we just reviewed will cover. Are there any questions on these 2 committee summary reports?
I see a hand raised by Ms. Young.
Oh.
Was that intentional? Sorry.
Ms. Young? I didn't think she was here. I thought she was at ADC presenting.
Oh, okay.
Just
Hello.
joined. She just joined us.
Thank you. I just wanted you to know that I had just joined. That was all.
Okay. Welcome
Thank
back.
you.
Thank you.
So the next item on are there any questions on what we just
Yes,
covered?
ma'am. Ms. Tyus, I see a question, I think an attention from Ms. Debbie Brown.
Okay, it's the question, Debbie Bowen. Yes, does any, okay.
I'm a CBA resident.
I think she's typing it in. That's why unless
Well,
you can
so
update her.
this is Debbie Bowen Spinelli. She's got a long history with Community Board 8. Former chair of the Transportation Committee years and years and years ago.
She was never, no.
Okay, all right. So
I think Glenda Andrews is also joining us, but she's on the phone. She's on her phone.
is there a question for her, from her?
Miss Andrews, you will have to put your question in the chat if you can. Oh, wait, she signed in. Okay, I just made her panelist. Glenda Andrews has joined us, okay.
Ms. Andrews, do you know when St. John Center is going to reopen?
No. No.
The question from Ms. Bowen was asking about, does any concerns or issues have any land use for Hebron Church?
Again, that item is was laid over at the last land.
What can I say about that?
Committee meeting, was laid over to July 9th. Am I stepping on somebody's toes?
No. I think it's just someone needs to mute themselves. I think Ms. Andrews, can you mute yourself, please?
I just muted her.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Bowen Spinelli, the Hebron project was laid over to July 9th. Online, same time, 6:30. Everybody will get a notice and it'll be posted on the calendar on the Community Board website. Okay, any other questions on what we've covered so far? Okay, so then we'll move on to reports from other committees.
Ms. Neal, do we need to take a ratification vote on those items?
Yes.
That was my understanding.
Yes, we do. It's in the action item. We need to follow the action items.
All right, then I call for an omnibus motion to support the items that have been reported out by Slack and land use according to the listing on the items distributed by the board office.
So moved. It's Gibb.
Please call the roll on omnibus motion when the summary items reported.
Ms. Tyus, I have a question on the motion. I believe Ms. Ben James.
Yes. Question.
No question? I can see. You can shake your head.
I have no question.
Okay, sorry for that interruption.
All right, third time's a charm. So again, you know where your name falls in the alphabet. Please unmute, be ready to say yes. If we can't see or hear you, please use the chat. One of us will record your vote. Mr. Allison,
Yes to the ratification.
thank you. Ms. Andrews?
Yes, in the chat.
Yes. Mr. Atkins?
Yes.
Thank you. Atkinson?
Yes.
Mr. Bailey says yes. Ms. Ben James?
Yes.
Ms. Boyd? Ms. Branch Mohammed?
She said yes in the chat. She said yes.
Thank you. Mr. Buckholz?
Yes.
Mr. Callahan?
Yes.
Ms. Charles?
Yes.
Ms. Coley? Ms. Daniel?
I see Nora Daniel. I don't hear her.
We'll come back. Mr. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Farley says yes. Ms. Ferris? We'll come back. Ms. Gabriel?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Gibbs?
Yes.
How you doing?
Ms. Granville?
Yes.
Ms. Harris Blenman? Ms. Henry?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Jordan? Ms. Kinsey? I can skip that one. Ms. Laser?
Yes.
Ms. Lemaine? Ms. Mahoney? Mr. McSteens?
Yes.
Mr. Puka? Mr. Raji? Mr. Max?
Yes. Yes.
Gotcha, Mr. Raji.
Yes, from Adam.
Mr. Sachs, Mr. Saunders?
Yes.
Ms. Soko? Captain Staten? Ms. Superville? Ms. Tate Hall? Mr. Thurton?
Yes.
Mr. Todd?
Yes.
Ms. Tyus?
Yes.
Mr. Vacconi?
Yes.
Ms. Watson?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Witherspoon?
Yes. Oh,
Ms. Wedderburn? Mr. Witherwack? Yes. Ms. Young?
yes. So sorry.
No problem. The gun. Ms. Zuniga? We have 30 in favor, no opposed, no abstentions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Witherwax. And thank you all for supporting the work that these committees have been doing over the past several months in the face of technological challenges like we never knew. So, moving right along, again, I ask if there are other updates or reports from other committees that we should know about.
Ms. Tyus, we have two hands up. I don't know if they want to ask questions. Princess Ben James, Calvis, and Deb. I don't know which Deb.
Yeah, I think, if I may, I think those have been addressed. They haven't either lowered their hands themselves or be lowered by the host.
Okay, let me try to lower them.
Thank you. If I'm mistaken, please speak up.
Not on my count. You're correct.
And I said the same.
Thank you.
Are there any other elected representatives that we should hear from?
Arna Lipkin joined us.
Hi, Arna.
We have the few new board members also joined us. So you may want to go to the list again.
Okay.
Arna? Wait, let me make Arna a panelist. Wait. Ms. Lipkin? Where is she?
There she is. She's smiling and the lips are moving, but I can't hear her.
There she is.
Where is she? I can't see. I have so many people.
She needs to unmute herself.
Arno Lipkin. Where is she?
Camera, but no microphone. I can't get to her. What's happening? Hi, Arna. We can't hear you.
I don't.
She's talking. She's talking. How do we do this?
She needs to unmute herself. I can't
She's
even.
not muted.
She needs to turn her mic on.
Yeah.
Don't even.
Connect to audio if you have that option.
Oh. Okay.
All right, maybe we should move on and check back with her. She's nodding her head affirmatively.
Okay.
Sorry for the complications, Ms. Lipkin.
We'll get this down pat eventually. Are there any announcements we need to make?
Ms. Tyus, I'd like to just remind all of our participants and our board members, if they haven't already, to complete the census.
Amen.
Our community is drastically and woefully underrepresented every year. The census is made. So I encourage you to ask your neighbors and family and friends nearby to complete the census so we get an accurate representation of our community.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ellis. That is critical, crucial, and it's something that people really need to pay attention to. I just want to add that for the business that we just went over, 1370 Dean Street has an LPC meeting coming up, hearing coming up on June 30th. And LPC is striving, as we are, to continue to do business fairly and openly. So they're having Friday tutorials for their Tuesday hearings. So you can sign up, you can go online and register with LPC, the Landmarks Preservation Commission, to get a tutorial on how to attend their meetings and testify. They want their testimony in the Friday before, so keep an eye on their website, do the tutorial, find out how to submit your testimony, submit it the Friday before the Tuesday meeting, and then attend the Tuesday meeting. Okay, so that is 1370 Dean Street coming up on June 30th, which is an applicant seeking a 100% return on their investment at that building. And in order to do that, they did 4 apartments, which brings them under the Americans with Disabilities Act and requires a handicap lift in the front of the building in a historic district, long story short. Thank you.
I would like to remind everyone, this is Michelle George, to remember to vote. Voting in New York is June 23rd. Early voting begins on June 13th. And if you haven't already requested a absentee ballot, please do so. And Arna Lipkin wanted to mention, if anyone still needs food, to please email alipkin@council.nyc.gov.
Just a quick word from Sanitation Committee. We will not be meeting in June. Our next meeting would have been in 2 Tuesdays from now. So we're in accordance with board policy, we're not going to be meeting, but I hope it hasn't escaped anyone's attention how vital the streets of Community Board 8 have been these last 2 weeks for the marchers, the protesters who have thronged Flatbush, Eastern Parkway, Vanderbilt, Atlantic, Barclay Center. This is one of the reasons we live in a city and enjoy our streets so much. The ability for us to get together and protest and make our voices heard. So voting is one, very important, but I just wanted to give a shout out to our streets.
Thank you both very much, District Manager George. That was a very key reminder. Vote, vote, vote. I think the last day to request an absentee ballot is the 13th, if I'm correct.
Yes.
And you really want to do that. If you have questions, you should be able to find out about people you don't know about that are on the ballot by surfing the web, especially the Kings County Committee website. They may have some information there on people you're not familiar with. And please do that, and also respond to the census.
I think Ms. Andrews wanted to report something.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to let you know I spoke with somebody at the Parks Department over there on St. John. So everything is closed down. They're working, they're doing stuff inside, but everything else, all the program stuff has been placed on hold, of course. But if there's something happened during the summer, I'll let the community board know when they start opening up and doing all the other projects. As you know, the capital projects have probably been all on hold because construction has been placed on hold until last week. I think they started going back to work. So I don't know the status on some of the capital projects we were working on, but I'll get an update by next week and find out what's going on.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Andrews.
Okay.
Also, Ms. Tyus, in the chat, Regina Kinsey is on her phone. She's on the call, and it says was not unmuted. It's difficult to unmute people that have called in because I don't know phone numbers to unmute people. So it's kind of difficult, but she's on the call. Someone did that.
I think I believe you're able to unmute yourself. Just the host has the ability to mute people en masse to keep the volume levels controlled where the speaker can be heard.
Can you do that with a phone call?
I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that.
Yes, you can, but you're the person who have to unmute yourself. I think you have to do *66 or something. I can't remember, but yes, you can. But you have to do it.
Okay, thanks, Ms. James. Maybe we'll check into that and have that information prepared in advance for next meeting if we're still continuing this manner.
All right, so we're winding down unless there's something else. Again, the project for 959 Sterling Place, Hebron, Land Use Committee application to go to the LPC for a certificate of appropriateness was laid over to July 9th, and notice will be issued. Is there anything else that we're forgetting? Use this opportunity.
Well, I'd like to say something. It's not that you're forgetting it, but I want to say it, and I will follow it up with an email, which I said I was going to do.
Who's speaking?
I'm sorry,
Deborah Young.
Deborah Young.
Okay.
I didn't raise my hand because I can't figure out. I don't know where the hand thing is. But anyway, okay. Can I go? Or
yes.
Okay, fine. I just wanted to be clear. I just want to say that I know that we may not have an option, but there were a lot of complaints from the community members who felt that they were not welcomed and accepted and able to participate in the last land use meeting because of the difficulties and the challenges. They gave me a laundry list of concerns that I will put in writing to the community board, and they want to be able to attend. They feel they have a right to attend and that they have a right to be heard. And they feel that that opportunity was not afforded to them via this platform. So just sharing, and I will follow it up with the concerns that they shared with me.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Ferris has a question about absentee ballots.
Yes. The question is, Ms. Ferris? I don't see the question.
Ms. Ferris, I unmuted you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you
now.
hear me? Okay, number one on the absentee ballot application didn't apply to me. So I was wondering, what do I do?
What is the question, number one?
Okay, it says I'm requesting in good faith an absentee ballot, and check one of the reasons. Absent from county or New York City on election day, temporarily ill, permanent illness or physical disability, or duties related to primary care of one of
Andrea,
or more.
it's Sharon Wedderburn. Just check illness, because COVID-19 is the reason that you're going to use.
Okay, because I was like, I'm not ill, so that's why I didn't check it. Okay.
I know, but they're considering the concerns about COVID-19 to be quote unquote illness.
Okay.
They're
Thank
gonna
you so
accept
much.
it. They're gonna accept it because they're sending it to everybody to have a choice to do it anyway. So whatever you choose, it is gonna be acceptable. So it's okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions hanging out there?
We need to hear from the new board members that joined us.
Oh, great.
Mark, I want to just give an update on the public safety quickly.
Please.
Yeah, we haven't had no meetings for a couple of months due to the pandemic. We was in communication with the 77th precinct. So during the protest, we're pretty fortunate that we didn't have no property damage or personal injuries, according to the 77th precinct. The 77th precinct also had protesters that was at their precinct in the month of June. Everything went along peaceful and orderly, so that went along good. For the month of March was pretty quiet in the community as a whole. April and May, they said that there was a pickup in shots fired in the community, so that was a concern. And in reference to the staff of the 77th precinct, they had approximately 14 officers that had tested positive for the COVID. But they've all recovered, and the staff is back up to regular capacity.
Excellent. Congratulations to them. They're lucky. Anything else?
Mr. Maribel asked about information about early voting, and I will put a link to information that I found online in the chat.
Early voting, you want to share anything else for other people who may need that information?
It just says, I'll read what I'm reading. It just says that early voting for the June 23rd primary starts on June 13th.
6:13.
And then there's a poll site locator that you can follow through with.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Ellis. That's very helpful. Are there other questions, concerns, complaints?
Greg Todd here. I had a
Yes, Mr. Todd.
I observed this afternoon that the police barricade at Park Place and Brooklyn Avenue has been removed. Likewise, the barricade at Park Place and Kingston Avenue. I sent photos to the Community Affairs Officer, Mike Neapolitano, and he responded promptly that he would report it to the NCO.
You have to speak up a little bit. Are you saying that those streets were supposed to be closed and now they're open?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. They were closed. They were closed several days last week when I went by, but today I noticed they are now open. And no one's aware why they were opened. It could be that some impolite motorist removed the barricade and no one bothered to return it. But they are 77 precinct property, and I'm assuming the 77 precinct should be involved in getting them returned. I don't know. I also noticed that they were supposed to have been blockades on Troy Avenue between St. John's and Eastern Parkway, and checked a couple hours ago. There were no blockades present at all. So this is part of the Safe Streets, Safe something program, I believe the mayor's instituted.
Mr. Todd, as per our conversation earlier today, I reached out to DOT and I'm awaiting their response regarding the barricades being removed. So once I hear something from DOT, I will let you know.
Ms. Titus, I have a raised hand, Mr. Vacconi.
Yes, Mr. Vacconi. Thank you. Mr.
And then also Ms. Wedderburn, just to cue people up.
On open streets, I just wanted to say that we noticed in Prospect Heights on Underhill Avenue and Carlton Avenue, there were days when the barricades were not being placed. They were still there, but they were not being put up on the street at 8 o'clock in the morning. We attributed that to the police being preoccupied with the demonstrations, and we saw from DOT that the residents could put the barricades up themselves if the police were not there to do it. So if you see in the Crown Heights open streets, if the barricades are lying there on the sidewalk, you might just ask DOT if it's okay to just go ahead and put them up.
I thought that was the reason these open streets had to be sponsored by an organization, because the organization members would now be responsible for opening and closing the street. That's how I understand it to be.
There was
That was the first rollout of the program, but they expanded it to include streets manned by either DOT staff or the precinct staff.
Yeah, the second round here, especially in Brooklyn, mostly had streets that were maintained by NYPD.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Ms. Wedderburn.
Hi, everybody. Just as we've been all staying in place, children haven't had the opportunity to go to school this year. The DOE has a target date of September 10th for school opening, and it's going to be very different from what it has been in the previous years. They're putting an emphasis on enhanced health, trauma-informed transition, blended learning. They are considering a rolling pause start, so any number of variations, and looking into building operations. So as this is fleshed out, I will send a report to the board office, and the board office can in turn share it with the community board and the community at large.
Okay.
Mr. Buckholtz,
thank you.
Question. He has his hand up.
I want to put my hand.
I would just say very briefly that I work in my professional job. I work with the sidewalk improvement team at DOT, and I understand that citizens are encouraged to restore the barriers whenever they want to, and there's no prohibition on doing it. That said, I have not had good luck in maintaining the barrier at Park Place between Brooklyn and Kingston, I believe it is. But I've been told by DOT personnel that if the barrier is not up in the morning when it should be, you should feel free to put it back up. That's all.
Well, it sounds like you're a good person to ask. I'm on Sterling Place between New York and Nostrand, and we have a SAPO permit approved for the first Saturday in August for our annual Kids Fun Day, where we just close our little strip, Sterling Place between New York and Nostrand, and the kids ride their bikes up and down the street. So I imagine that's still going to be okay.
I would assume if you have a permit that was already granted, I know that the individual with whom I work, we have staff who work in their office, so they send me the timesheets. They have a lot of things going on these days, but as long as you have an active permit, you should be fine.
Good. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
It's a question / request. I'm not so sure, Mr. Witherwax, how we could proceed with this. For the last month and a half, I've been walking Eastern Parkway, and I noticed that the eastern and east of Clawson Avenue, there are no directionals on the ground for bikes and walkers. Once you cross Clawson Avenue, you have directionals for the bike riders and the walkers. Not that everybody adheres to them, but I think that under the under current circumstances, it would be helpful to have those further east, because there are a lot of people out there walking, and I don't think people know how to manage where to walk, how to walk to avoid the bikes.
Now, Yeah, that's a great question. The short answer is the bike lane on the median technically crosses from the north side of Eastern Parkway to the south side of Eastern Parkway at Classen. So technically, bikes, the official bike lane is only on the southern median from Classen east. So there wouldn't be markings on the north side of the median from Classen to the east. It would only be from Classen to the west. But your point is still well taken. I mean, we share the streets, we share the medians, we share the spaces. I would support exploring how do we get some signage, even if it isn't on the ground markings, that makes that clearer, reminds people of the possibility of negative interactions.
Okay, well, let me just, so for clarity, I'm not talking about the northern end versus the southern end. I'm just talking about the eastern end versus the western end, because people are walking on both ends, but there are no directionals at whatsoever east of Clawson Avenue.
Right.
Did I say
Wait,
that
wait,
clearly?
I'm sorry. On east of Clawson Avenue going all out to Rochester, going east.
I can only speak going east from Clawson Avenue to New York Avenue, because that's where I start to walk.
So there's
a
CB8's medians of Eastern Parkway. There are no bike markings on the median. That's because the only official bike lane is on the CB9 median.
Oh,
that is very true. I walked that to the subway station for years. So what they did was put down different types of brick down the middle of the south side of the Eastern Parkway median. And they used to have paintings of bicyclists on the wide side of that brick divider in the middle of the median on the south side of Eastern Parkway going to the train station.
Okay.
Raises a good point, just from the interest of safety and making sure we all share the space. Why don't we put some markings down in some way on the north side, east of Classen? It would be a wise thing to do.
North, south, east, and west.
Miss Young, I'll reach out to you tomorrow and get the exact location, and we'll touch base with DOT. Mr. Marable put a question in the chat regarding the locations for early voting, and I will email those locations to everyone either tomorrow or Monday.
Very good. I know Brooklyn, for a date certain, Brooklyn Museum is one. I don't remember the date.
I'll get the list and I'll email the list out to everyone. Ms. Gibbs has a question.
Go ahead.
It's more, hello? Yes, it's more of a comment for Ms. Tyus' question in reference to her permit. The city has technically held a moratorium on all permits. Even if you have an approved permit, contact your SAPO office as well as your local precinct. Officer Green and Pia Louise have been rather busy, like the rest of NYPD. So call them before you start making any preparations, because the city has put a moratorium on all city permits because of the situation that we're currently in. So before you start planning and purchasing stuff, contact them first, because there's a good possibility your permit has been on hold.
Thank you. We actually didn't plan to gather just to close the street so the kids could run up and down. Same principle as open streets. Just close the street and let the kids ride their bicycles in the roadway. And no gathering to eat together in large numbers or anything like that. Thank you.
I would suggest call the precinct directly and explain exactly what you said, and to where they can keep it down, because otherwise a permit to ride the streets is AKA a block party, and there's none of that. So just give them a call, reach out. That was all I had to say.
Back to Mr. Marable. Mr. Marable, in our newsletter, the June newsletter that we sent out today, you can find poll information in that newsletter. We emailed it out to you today. You should have it in the email.
Thank you.
I've also included a link to the site locator that you can plug in your address and find the closest one in the chat.
Okay, so we all want to know where early voting is. Got to vote unless you want to see President Trump reelected.
Ms. Tyus, we have the new board members. You want to go through that list again really quick so you hear from those new board members?
I think we stopped at Igenie Harris Blendman. Is she with us now?
Hello.
Okay, well, I have in my notes that we heard from Kirmani Allison, Lisa Atkinson, John Buckholz, and Robert Callahan. So anyone else that's on the chat that's not those four, we still need to hear from them.
Hello.
I have the list.
But Ms. Tyus, just ask, tell them what you want to hear, what you want to know. You have to.
Yes, we do. Welcome to the community board, and thank you for attending our last meeting of the year. We go through the final 5 new members, and tell us as we call your name. Please let us know a little bit about yourself. And if you've decided which committee, you can check with District Manager George and see how that will work for you, whatever committee you want to check into. But for now, just tell us something a little bit about yourself. Ms. Igenie Harris Blendman, would you go ahead, please?
Yes, my name is Igenie Harris Blimman. I live on Park Place between Nostrand and New York Avenue. I've been here for 51 years.
Oh my goodness.
My neighbor is Mark Thurton.
Wow.
And Miss Najani Granville. What else can I say? I've met majority of the people on the community board because I've been in different groups, in different organizations, I should say. I haven't decided yet what group I wish to be in yet. I haven't decided yet. It's still up in the air. But thank you, and I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining. This is such a fun group. There's so much to do. We welcome all volunteers. So again, there are 2 committees that meet over the summer. That's the State Liquor Authority, Sidewalk Cafe Review Committee. We call it SLAC. We lift out the R so it won't be slurk. And the Land Use Committee. So, and those dates will be posted on the community board calendar website, and we'll of course be using a virtual meeting platform, Webex. So those are 2 you could work with over the summer, and then for September over the summer, talk with Ms. George, our district manager, or Ms. Neal, our community liaison, and they can help you pick a committee. So thank you again. Our next up at describing themselves is Mariel Lemaine. Are you here?
No.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on to Calvis Mickelsteins.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Ms. Tyus. My name's Calvis Mickelsteins. I'm a relatively new resident in Crown Heights. I moved here about 3 years ago. I'm originally from Toronto, Canada.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm really pleased to be on the board, and I feel really very honored to be on the board, to be honest. I work as an urban planner in community and economic development, and I'd like to bring those skills to the table and help improve the neighborhood in any way I can. My main interest would be participating in economic development or youth development committees, and I look forward to working with everyone better. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Okay, next is Carmisha Superville. Has she joined us yet? Don't think so. Okay, lastly, we have Kimberly Watson.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Kim. I'm a licensed social worker. I was actually born and raised in Crown Heights. Moved away when I was 11, came back at the age of 25. I actually did participate last year, but I didn't know I had like an underlying health issue and work-related stress. I ended up in Kings County Hospital for like 2 months.
Oh.
At the time, I I had like one more meeting and then I would have been on the Youth and Education Committee, but then all of this crisis started happening to me. And then when I wanted to rejoin, the pandemic happened, so I'm here now. I would like to still be a part of the Youth and Education Committee, and I did reconnect with Sharon to, continue our work. And I think if the summer committees need folks, I'm willing to participate on Slack during this time.
Excellent.
But I do work for the New York City Department of Education in the Office of Safety and Youth Development as a social worker.
Excellent. We're becoming fearsome. We're going to have a really fearsome community board here. Watch out. Okay, this is great. Thank you very much. Ms. George, is there anything we should be covering before we start to wind down?
I just received a phone call from District Leader Alabi. She's actually on the phone with us, and she she said early voting, you have to be assigned a polling site. So she just sent an email to the board with instructions, a website. So I will e-blast that out tomorrow.
Thank you. Okay.
Ms. Tyus, we also have, was it Mr. Callahan? I don't know if did he have a chance to speak?
He spoke earlier.
Okay, I just got a notice in the chat about that, sorry.
Okay, he's our Imani chicken keeper.
Right now I recall. Sorry, Mr. Todd, he'd already spoken.
All right, so, okay. I keep saying, what are we missing? Are we missing anybody? Is something we should be covering? Because we won't be getting back together as a big group until September.
We should emphasize how good we are at keeping meetings to 90 minutes or less.
Thank you, Mr. Witherwax. Oh, okay. And before we decide to separate ourselves for the rest of the summer, except for those two committees, the bylaws committee needs to agree on a date to get together to fold all of this loosely generated materials into something cohesive that we can work with and defend as we go forward to a new world. Because I don't think this is over. I think we're going to see a lot of digital meetings and we're going virtual meetings, and we're going to need to nail it down so people don't feel disenfranchised like the community residents felt coming in to hear on a giant land use project in the Crown North Historic District. We need to be able to make both our appointed community board members comfortable, very comfortable and adroit with using this new platform because it's not over. Ditto for the casual community board meeting attendees who come for one-shot projects. And so we need to work on that because that's not going to be over either. I don't have any ideas right now other than periodic training sessions similar to what LPC is doing for their hearings. Any comments on that suggestion? Okay, that's a moment of silence. And
I don't have a comment on that, but I have a comment, a suggestion to the board members. We publish a monthly newsletter. Please take a moment to really read the newsletter. A lot of these questions were answered in the newsletter. Just take a few moments. We put a lot of work and research into putting our monthly newsletter together. Please take a moment to review the newsletter. We email it to you. It's on our website at brooklyncba.org. We try to keep our website updated. Take a look at the website, read the newsletter. Please read the emails that we send you guys. We send out emails. Please read them. Read them thoroughly, because a lot of the questions are answered in emails. And then we get on these Webex, so we're in the meeting and people ask the question, where is this? Where is that? And we sent it out. We send it out to you guys. So please take a moment to review all the emails that we send you prior to a meeting. Thank you.
And go through the website because Ms. Hill posts a lot of these information points on our website. So it's there. We do, it's a very good job. We have a list of new legislation that was just passed that's in the June issue of Across the Board, recently passed legislation at the state level. So you really do want to take a close look at that. Thank you, District Manager George. Okay.
If there's no other business, I make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Ms. James has her hand in.
DA's office says she's on call. She's online, but on the phone. I guess you'd like to say something.
Can you repeat that?
Karen's from the DA's office said she's on call and she would like to say something.
Okay, she has to unmute herself. We can't unmute her.
I'm looking, I'm not.
Okay, she just texted me back. She said, I would like to let CB know. Hi, I am on call, just saying hi, and I'm in office. What? Hey, hold on, it just went off. Yes. Can you let the CB know that I am on call, just saying hi, and our office is working at 25% in the office. So she said the office is working, but only 25% of the staff is there.
This is the DA's office?
Yes, the DA's office.
Okay,
And she
okay.
said she's on call.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, then we had a motion to close the meeting.
Also in the chat, Betty Davis wants everyone to stay safe and healthy and sent regards from the Dean Street Grant Square Block Association.
Yes, and we want to also wish member Vilma Zuniga a quick recovery from her illness.
Yes, yes.
So that being said, I'm going to close the meeting.
Can you guys please keep an eye on all this construction that is going on, that the permits are rescinding, but they're still working?
Okay, I thought.
For clarity, phase 1 of construction began again this week on Monday.
I was just about to say that. Thank you, Mr. Ellis. Certain projects have been given a green light to start back.
I think all projects
Department of Buildings does a good job with posting permits and saying who's on and who's off. So we can do that. So again, unless there's something else, we'll close the meeting and thank you all for coming.
Good night.
Good night.
Summer, safe.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Stay safe. Enjoy your summer.
Bye.
She never did come back on.